Well, I mean, like, isn't that what it is? Like, or how do you feel about that?
What does the baptism mean to you then?
This is...
You love her, yeah. But I wanted to punish myself. I imagined leaving Robyn, finding another lover, looking her in the eyes and saying, "I don't love you." Those were the words that escaped Kody Brown. Not with pride, but with the ache of a man imploding under the pressure of his own life choices. He was aware of the chaos, aware that the world was watching, but still powerless to stop the slow-motion collapse of everything he'd built. What followed wasn't simply an emotional breakdown. It was the start of something far greater, a public unraveling that would spill from whispers and fan circles to the cold, echoing chambers of a courtroom. Kody's anger had turned inward, eating away at him, his marriage, and the fragile reality he'd crafted for years. What viewers once thought was a love story, or at least a complicated family journey, was now a tale of self-destruction and deceit. When the scandal finally reached the courthouse, it wasn't a small, hidden proceeding. It was a storm that had been waiting years to erupt. Cameras lined the steps of the Arizona courthouse that morning, reporters huddled together, whispering and adjusting their lenses. Behind the heavy wooden doors, the air was tense, filled with murmurs and nervous glances. At precisely 9 o'clock, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb. The door opened slowly, deliberately, as if to signal the gravity of what was about to unfold. First to step out was Kody Brown. No longer the relaxed, cowboy-shirted patriarch fans had known from television, but a man cloaked in a sharp gray suit, his jaw tight, his face unreadable. There was no charm, no performative warmth. He was there for battle. A moment later, Robyn followed, dressed in a deep navy suit, her face set, her eyes hard. There were no smiles exchanged, no affectionate gestures, only a wall of tension thick enough to cut through. As the pair walked towards the entrance, the shouts began. "Kody, did you hide money from the other wives? Robyn, are you facing criminal charges? Will your children testify?" Neither answered, but their silence roared louder than words ever could. This wasn't another family dispute or a TV special. It was something far deeper, a legal reckoning built on years of quiet suspicion and festering resentment. The courtroom was packed to capacity, every seat taken by journalists, attorneys, and curious onlookers desperate to witness the fall of one of reality television's most infamous families. For months, rumors had swirled among fans. Christine had left first, then Janelle, and even Mary, each one offering cryptic hints online, each one speaking of healing, independence, and truth. The fans sensed it before anyone confirmed it. Something was deeply wrong in the Brown household. Christine's haunting words echoed across social media. Sometimes the truth hurts more when it comes from the ones you trusted most. As court proceedings began, the story took shape, a story of manipulation, money, and betrayal. Allegedly, Kody and Robyn had been diverting large portions of the Brown family's shared income into private accounts, disguised under titles like emergency funds or family budgeting. But what made the accusations worse was who didn't have access to those accounts: Christine, Janelle, and Mary. The transactions had reportedly begun soon after Christine left the family, fueling speculation that Kody and Robyn were stashing money before the rest of the wives followed her lead. Christine and Janelle's legal teams demanded a full forensic audit of every joint account connected to the Brown empire, claiming there had been years, perhaps decades, of financial manipulation disguised as family management. Once the state took interest and the possibility of civil fraud surfaced, there was no turning back. Inside that courtroom, it was as if the entire sister wives' legacy was on trial. The prosecution's first piece of evidence sent shockwaves. Through the room, a record showing a $200,000 wire transfer from the family's shared account into one titled Robyn Home Purchase. A gasp rippled through the gallery. The judge raised his brows but said nothing, allowing the documents to keep speaking. And they did. Evidence after evidence followed. Signed affidavits, sound files, and bank statements painting a grim picture. Robyn, it seemed, had allegedly been using mutual credit cards to make personal purchases, some tied to luxury brands and private school tuition, while signing documents that other wives were accused of authorizing, though they swore they never had. The judge leaned forward at one point and said quietly but firmly, "If even half of this is true, we're not talking about miscommunication. We're talking about fraud." The walls of the courtroom carried echoes of betrayal. A video clip, never aired on TLC, was shown to the court. It featured Kody saying, "I didn't think I needed their permission to protect what matters. Robyn and I are doing what's best for this family." The camera then cut to Janelle, who shook her head in disbelief and whispered, "He stopped caring about this family the moment it stopped being about Robyn." The moment that footage appeared on the courtroom screen, gasps and murmurs filled the air. It wasn't just evidence, it was confession by character, broadcast now not on television but under oath. Outside the courthouse, the world erupted. Within hours, hashtags began trending across X and TikTok, where Kody Brown exposed, a Robyn court scandal, sister wives fraud. Fans flooded comment sections demanding justice, some calling for Kody's arrest, others for Robyn's downfall. The court of public opinion was already in session, and the verdict was merciless. TLC found itself under fire too, accused of concealing the truth to protect its golden reality franchise. As one fan tweeted, "They sold us love, but it was built on lies." Inside, the courtroom drama continued to unfold like a film that refused to end. The prosecution introduced more documents, a list of unreported transactions, undisclosed assets, and a series of questionable transfers, all leading to Robyn's name. According to financial investigators, 2 LLCs, Brown Family Holdings and Life with Robyn Inc., were quietly established, both registered under Robyn's management. Between 2016 and 2022, they allegedly received more than $420,000 in TLC reimbursements under vague terms like consulting and management. This, combined with the purchase of a $900,000 home in Flagstaff, registered only under Robyn and Kody's names, painted a devastating picture. All this while the other wives were told the family was financially struggling. Then came perhaps the most damning testimony of all, the claim that during the height of the pandemic, Robyn had convinced the others to grant her temporary power of attorney to manage the family finances, claiming it was just until things stabilized. Yet that temporary arrangement somehow became permanent, without their knowledge or consent. Christine's recorded testimony was played for the court, her voice steady but filled with pain. "I believed Robyn. I truly thought she cared about us all. But over time, I saw everything crumble. She created division while pretending to build unity." Next was Janelle, her tone colder, sharper, and full of fury barely restrained. "There were accounts I didn't even know existed," she said. "She told us we were broke while she and Kody lived comfortably. This wasn't just about money. It was about betrayal." By the time the judge adjourned, the room felt heavier than when it had begun. Everyone inside, reporters, fans, even those who had once admired the Browns, knew they had witnessed more than just a hearing. They had seen the unraveling of an illusion. For years, Kody Brown had sold the image of a devoted, spiritually united polygamous family, a household bound by love and faith. But beneath the surface, it was hollow. Robyn was no longer the cherished favorite wife. She had become the face of the downfall, the symbol of greed, secrecy, and manipulation that had destroyed the foundation of the Brown legacy. Outside, the Arizona sun burned hot, but the air was thick with questions. Would Robyn face charges? Would Kody be forced to repay millions? Would TLC finally cut ties with the Browns for good? No one knew. But what was certain was that this was no longer a family story. It was a national scandal. And as the world watched, one truth became undeniable. Behind every empire lies a paper trail. And Robyn Brown's was finally being read aloud, line by line, dollar by dollar, before the entire world. The courtroom witnessed a version of Robyn Brown no one quite recognized. Gone was the soft-spoken, tearful woman viewers remembered from TLC's Sister Wives, the mother who wept through interviews about love, faith, and sacrifice. In her place sat a figure of composure and distance. Robyn appeared almost statuesque, her face unreadable, her posture impeccable, her every breath measured. She spoke only in whispers to her attorneys, never lifting her eyes to meet the judge or the other wives seated behind her. To the public, this looked like cold detachment, but to legal analysts, it was something else: strategic silence. Her handlers had clearly advised her to remain still, emotionless, and unshaken. One wrong word, one misplaced tear, and it could all spiral against her. Yet in that silence, Robyn's restraint screamed louder than any defense could have. Then came the prosecution's moment. A forensic accountant took the stand. Calm, precise, the kind of expert who could turn columns of numbers into confessions. She presented a timeline so detailed, so damning, it felt like watching the pieces of a puzzle lock together to reveal betrayal in full color. Her report mapped financial movements against key family events, exposing a chilling pattern. July 2019, Christine's daughter needed surgery. The family was told money was tight. Yet that same month, nearly $48,000 was spent on luxury renovations to Robyn's home. November 2020, Mary sought funds from the shared business profits to invest in a new project, only to be told the account was closed. But records showed that just weeks before, $75,000 from that very account had been transferred into life with Robyn. In early 2021, Kody pressured Janelle to sell her RV for the sake of family finances, while he and Robyn spent $60,000 on their Flagstaff backyard, adding a hot tub and outdoor fireplace. By the time the accountant concluded, the picture was clear. This wasn't mismanagement, she said evenly. It was an organized, intentional reallocation of shared funds, benefiting one couple at the expense of all others. The words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. The wives sat in silence, their faces pale, their attorneys scribbling furiously. Even the judge seemed to linger on her phrasing: organized, intentional, one couple at the expense of all others. But the day's most haunting moment didn't come from the experts. It came from the children. Several of the Brown family's adult kids had submitted written statements to the court. One was read aloud, trembling on the lips of a clerk. "We never thought the split was so deep. We thought the money belonged to all of us. I worked 2 jobs because I believed the family couldn't afford to help with college. Turns out it was just us who couldn't." Another, reportedly from one of Robyn's older children, confessed quietly, "I was told not to ask questions. I was told everything was fine. But now I realize I didn't know the truth at all." Those words landed like stones on hearts that were already cracked. The betrayal had reached beyond the wives. It had seeped into the children's lives, into their faith, their futures. Some had lived in quiet struggle while others lived in comfort. The illusion of unity, the idea that they were all in it together, shattered before the nation's eyes. Outside the courthouse, the public outrage was immediate. TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit ignited in fury. "Robyn built herself a throne," one user wrote, while pretending she was barely surviving. Another post on Reddit, titled "Robyn Brown, the Mastermind," reached over 40,000 upvotes within 24 hours. Fans began revisiting old Sister Wives episodes, scrutinizing every frame, every look, every tone, every background glance Robyn had given, as though decoding clues from a true crime series. YouTube channels dissected her interviews. TikTok creators pieced together old clips like evidence boards. The once beloved matriarch of sympathy had now become the villain of deceit. Although no criminal charges had yet been filed, legal experts hinted that repayment could soon be ordered. Robyn and Kody might be forced to return hundreds of thousands in misused funds, possibly even sell their luxurious Flagstaff home. Attorneys for Christine and Janelle pushed for an injunction to freeze any further asset transfers, effectively cutting Robyn off from shared accounts. As one lawyer famously put it to the press, "If it walks like financial coercion and quacks like financial coercion, then it very well might be fraud." When court adjourned that day, the once glamorous pair exited in silence. Robyn, head bowed, hid behind oversized sunglasses, her lips pressed thin. Kody followed a few paces behind, his expression blank, his body tense, a man struggling to control a storm that had long since escaped his grip. Cameras flashed, questions flew, but neither turned to answer. They just kept walking, straight through the chaos they'd helped create. But if they thought silence would end it, they were mistaken. The public wasn't done, and neither was the court. For years, Kody Brown had stood at the center of the family's chaos, balancing 4 wives, 18 children, and a crumbling image of faith and unity. But that morning, he wasn't just losing control. He was disintegrating, live, in front of the nation. The judge's gavel cracked sharply. "Mr. Brown," he called, "you may now respond to the charges." Kody rose slowly, tugging at his tie, his face flushed. The courtroom waited. Cameras leaned in. He began, his voice tight with fury and pride. "Your Honor, with all due respect," he said, "this isn't fraud. This is bitterness. This is revenge." Gasps spread through the courtroom. The judge silenced the noise with a glare, but the damage was done. Kody's words came faster now, anger fueling each one. "I've sacrificed my peace, my privacy, even my sanity, and for this family," he snapped. "I built a life with 4 women under public scrutiny, and now I'm being dragged through the mud for trying to protect what little we had left." Reporters scribbled madly. Cameras outside captured muffled shouting. This wasn't a calm defense, it was an emotional implosion. The judge's gavel struck again. Mr. Brown, compose yourself. But Kody wasn't done. His gaze turned sharply to Christine and Janelle. You two walked away, he accused. You abandoned the family. And now you want to rewrite history, to make me the villain for trying to hold it together. The room went silent. Janelle looked down. Christine met his eyes, unflinching, her face an unreadable mask. For years, fans had watched Kody trying and failing to hold his plural marriage together. But now, stripped of television's editing and music, the truth was raw. There were no heroes left, only people broken and tired. Kody's lawyer placed a hand on his shoulder, whispering for him to sit, but he resisted. His voice cracked with exhaustion and fury. Nobody talks about what it's like, he said. The pressure, the lies printed about me, the effort I put into keeping the show alive. They didn't want plural marriage anymore. Fine. But don't call me a manipulator. I made sacrifices. We all did. And now Robyn and I are being crucified for being faithful. When he finally sat, the defense team took over, their tone smooth and professional. They argued that this was all a matter of miscommunication, not deceit. There were no written contracts governing finances between the wives, they claimed, only verbal agreements based on trust. In such an unconventional marriage, they said, misunderstandings were inevitable. What the plaintiffs called fraud was merely poor communication. Then came the second argument, the family preservation. The creation of LLCs and separate accounts, they said, was not about hiding money, but about protecting the family's future during an emotional collapse. After Christine and Janelle left, Kody had to stabilize what remained. And since Robyn was his legal wife, it made sense for her to take the lead. Finally, they insisted there was no criminal intent. Every transaction, they said, had been reviewed by lawyers and tax advisors. No theft, no deception, only heartbreak and a desperate attempt to survive. But despite the careful tone, the energy in the room had shifted. The judge leaned forward. So, Mr. Brown, he said quietly, are you admitting that you and your legal wife made financial decisions without informing the others? Kody hesitated. Your Honor, he said softly, I did what I thought I had to do. The family was breaking apart. I was trying to hold on to what was left. For the first time that day, Kody Brown sounded unsure, not angry, not defensive, just lost. It was as though he had finally realized that the home he'd built, the empire he'd paraded to millions, was burning down, and perhaps he'd been the one holding the match. When Christine Brown was offered a brief moment to speak, she walked forward calmly. It wasn't formal testimony, just a clarification, her lawyer said. She stood straight, voice clear but edged with hurt. I'm not here to fight Kody, she began. I'm here to tell the truth. Years ago, we all agreed that our money would be shared equally. I trusted that. I lived by that. Until the day I was told there wasn't enough left to pay my children's school fees. And then I saw photos of Robyn's backyard renovation. She paused, her gaze unwavering. If he had told me things had changed, I would have understood. But he didn't. He just took over and assumed we'd stay quiet. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It was quiet devastation, the kind that breaks without needing to shout. And as Christine stepped back, the courtroom fell into a silence heavier than any gavel strike. This was no longer just a legal case. It was the final unmasking of a family that had once preached love and faith, only to end here, in a cold courtroom divided by betrayal and truth. Within hours, the courtroom chaos had spilled far beyond those four walls. A video clip of Kody Brown's explosive tantrum, pieced together from leaked transcripts, hallway recordings, and courtroom sketches, went viral. Twitter ignited into a frenzy. Hashtags like Sadiari Kody loses, it, Ash defending Robyn, and Justice for Christine trending within minutes. Commenters could hardly believe what they'd seen. One post read, Kody really stood in court yelling at his ex-wives like it was a therapy session. Sir, you're in court, not confession. TikTokers wasted no time, slicing courtroom audio alongside old sister wives clips, drawing chilling parallels between Kody's meltdown on the stand and the controlling behaviors fans had witnessed for over a decade. The internet had seen this pattern before, but never with such rawness. One viral tweet captured it perfectly. He didn't just lose the family, he lost the plot. Soon, experts began to weigh in. Marriage counselors, therapists, and body language specialists flooded talk shows and YouTube breakdowns. Their analysis was brutal, yet strangely sympathetic. This isn't rage and it's fear, one therapist explained. When someone loses the system they controlled, they lash out. This wasn't just about money. It was about losing power, image, and legacy. And that was perhaps the most revealing truth of all. Kody Brown wasn't battling to win a legal case. He was battling to control the story. But in a courtroom, emotions mean little. Facts matter, and the facts were painting an ugly picture. As the judge closed the day's hearing, his tone was clipped, authoritative. "This court will not tolerate emotional manipulation or theatrics," he warned. "We're not here to fix a marriage. We're here to establish truth and accountability." Kody sat pale and speechless, his once fiery temper reduced to silence. Robyn didn't reach for his hand. The room slowly emptied, leaving behind a sense that something monumental had shifted. Reporters sprinted to file their stories while outside the media lights blazed. But the world wasn't finished with them yet, not by a long shot. Because as dramatic as Kody's breakdown had been, the prosecution had only just begun. By the third day of hearings, anticipation buzzed through the courthouse like static before a storm. Outside, TV vans crowded the streets. Cameras pointed towards the courthouse doors. Inside, the audience waited breathlessly as Robyn Brown, the once tearful, soft-spoken favorite wife, was called to the stand. The judge's voice carried steady authority. "Mrs. Robyn Brown, please take your seat." Robyn rose slowly, her posture stiff, her blouse immaculate, but her eyes betrayed the nerves beneath the surface. For years, she'd been seen as the loyal partner, the one who stood by Kody through every storm. But today, that loyalty was about to be tested under oath. The questioning began gently, almost respectfully. "Mrs. Brown, were you aware of Mr. Brown's financial dealings with his other wives?" She hesitated, then murmured, "Only what he told me. I wasn't involved directly." "Did Mr. Brown instruct you to open joint accounts under your name only?" Another pause. Her voice cracked faintly. "Yes. But he said it was for protecting the money, not hiding it." A low murmur rippled through the courtroom. For months, rumors had circulated that Kody and Robyn had funneled money from shared family accounts into private funds. Now, it was no longer gossip. It was testimony. The prosecution moved in with precision. "Mrs. Brown, were you aware that multiple property deeds were transferred solely to your name?" Robyn blinked rapidly, her lips tightening. "I signed whatever Kody told me to sign." Gasps echoed as Christine's lawyers laid out a stack of documents: bank transfers, signed deeds, and LLC registrations. Over $600,000 in family assets had allegedly been moved into Robyn's name across 3 years, all sourced from accounts meant to support all 4 wives, Janelle, Christine, and Mary included. Janelle's lawyer stood and delivered her statement with icy calm. "This isn't about greed. It's about betrayal. Whether through manipulation or blind trust, Mrs. Brown signed papers that erased the others from what was rightfully theirs." The defense protested, but the judge silenced them. Then came the question that broke through Robyn's composure. "Did Kody Brown coerce you into signing these transfers?" Her lawyer gently rephrased it, coaxing her to answer. Robyn's eyes glistened. "He said it was for our future, that the others would be fine." Behind her, Kody's face hardened, his jaw clenching as he glared at her, unblinking. For years, fans had speculated whether Robyn was victim or architect. In that moment, she looked like both, trapped between guilt and fear. Then came Kody's turn on the stand, and the room turned electric once more. Dressed sharply in a dark suit, he exhaled deeply before taking the oath. At first, his voice carried rehearsed confidence, but under cross-examination, his bravado cracked. "Did you or did you not instruct Robyn to create a new will in 2022, cutting out your other children?" the attorney asked. Kody's eyes darted briefly towards the judge. "It was just legal simplification," he said. "But yes, they were excluded, on the advice of counsel." The courtroom gasped. "Did you move family property into Robyn's name to avoid division and divorce?" "I didn't think it would come to that," Kody muttered. "I just wanted to protect what we had left." Every answer dug him deeper. Documents, emails, and text messages projected on the courtroom screens dismantled his defense piece by piece. The judge finally leaned forward, voice grave. "Mr. Brown, do you understand the consequences of transferring jointly owned property without consent?" Kody swallowed hard. "I do now, Your Honor. But I believed I was doing what was right for the family." That single statement, equal parts arrogance and regret, marked the moment everything collapsed. The patriarch who once ruled a household of wives and children stood exposed, his empire of control reduced to paper trails and hollow excuses. Then, unexpectedly, Robyn requested to address the court directly. It wasn't required, it wasn't even wise, but she insisted. required. It wasn't even wise, but she insisted. Her voice trembled as she stood. "I never wanted any of this," she said. "I just wanted peace. Kody told me we were protecting the family. I didn't know how much harm it caused. I'm sorry." A murmur swept through the courtroom, some believing her, others rolling their eyes. Janelle refused to look her way. Christine, tears glimmering, gave a single nod, not in forgiveness but in recognition. The truth at last had broken through the silence. By the day's end, the judge delivered a warning that reverberated through the chamber. If concealed or fraudulent transfers are proven, this court will order restitution and freeze all relevant accounts. No one is above financial accountability. The courtroom fell utterly still. 2 days were allotted before the next hearing, time enough for the world to digest what had just unfolded. Outside, the air buzzed with reporters' questions. Hashtags like "Were Robyn New Revelations" and "Kody Court Showdown" stormed across TikTok and X. Fans dissected every phrase, every glance, every tear. This wasn't just another legal hearing, it was the televised fall of a dynasty. Online, the commentary was merciless. "Karma never forgets an address," one fan wrote on TikTok, and it became the defining phrase of the scandal. Memes of Robyn's hidden trusts and mysterious LLCs spread like wildfire. Reddit exploded with deep dives, frame-by-frame analysis of old episodes, where viewers now saw clues they'd missed. Robyn's subtle smirks, Kody's controlling tone, Mary's forced smiles. Even mainstream media joined in. People magazine, Entertainment Tonight, and CNN all ran the headline, "Sister Wives' Empire Collapses in Courtroom Meltdown." But perhaps the harshest blow came not from the public, but from the judge himself. In his written remarks, he condemned Kody's egregious mismanagement of the family's shared assets and noted that Robyn's emotional defenses did not absolve her of financial accountability. One sentence stood out, spreading online like wildfire. "This court does not recognize emotional distress as an excuse for fiscal deceit." For Christine, Janelle, and Mary, it was vindication. Christine posted a calm Instagram video. "The truth is finally out. We stayed quiet thinking silence kept the peace. But sometimes silence protects the wrong people." Janelle's live stream hit harder. "He gambled our future for Robyn's comfort, now the court sees it too." Even Mary, ever the quiet one, tweeted cryptically, "Some people will betray you and then act like you hurt them." TLC scrambled behind the scenes. The chaos had driven Sister Wives to record-breaking ratings, but it had also ignited outrage. Executives debated whether to cut ties with Kody and Robyn altogether or pivot toward a new spin-off focused on Christine and Janelle's rebirth beyond polygamy. Advertisers were furious. "We can't appear to condone financial abuse," one insider allegedly said. The network's future with the Browns hung by a thread. And while the legal focus remained on asset division, whispers of deeper offenses, concealed accounts, false filings, and tax misrepresentation began to stir. Legal analysts warned that if further evidence emerged, Kody and Robyn could face more than financial penalties. Criminal charges were not out of the question. Meanwhile, Robyn, once the queen of the family, had become its ghost. Paparazzi captured her leaving the courthouse, sunglasses hiding swollen eyes. A source close to the Browns claimed she'd withdrawn entirely. No public outings, no appearances, barely speaking to anyone. "She thought she could control the story," the insider said, "but it's controlling her now." Even the children, once sheltered from the drama, were now feeling the aftershocks. In a recorded statement, Janelle shared tearfully, "They're carrying emotional wounds they don't even understand yet." And so, the mighty empire of the Browns stood in ruins. Kody and Robyn's carefully crafted image had shattered. The edited confessionals, the narratives of misunderstood love, all gone. What was left were court transcripts, public records, and the undeniable truth. As the judge prepared his final ruling, one thing had already become clear. This was no longer about family. It was about accountability. Christine, Janelle, and Mary walked out of that courtroom not as broken women, but as survivors reclaiming what was theirs. And for Kody and Robyn, their story was no longer theirs to tell. The curtain had lifted, the truth laid bare, and the whole world was watching.